All right, we're live. Episode 34 of Material Issues. Thank you all very much for watching. I have with me today, well, Mark Hershberger, who's my co host, is otherwise occupied, but we're very, very thrilled to have as our substitute co host and guest today, Mr. John Borack. Thank you, John.
Thank you, David. I am not Mark Hershberger, but an incredible stimulation. Or simulation or something like that.
Did you just say stimulation?
Yes, that was kind of a joke. I'm sorry. I'm starting off with the bad puns right off the bat here.
I started a joke, to quote the Bee Gees.
Yeah, that's there we go. We're off and running. Yeah, Mark would be with us, but he's what is he announcing a high school basketball game today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what high school he's announcing, but I think he's done that several times. He's well known in the announcing field of girls basketball. He's sort of the Chick Hearn of Southern Philadelphia or wherever he is. Is that where he is?
Southern New Jersey.
Same thing. Same thing. It's cold wherever it is.
It's It's cold outside, to quote the choir. I'm just going to do that the whole day.
The whole show, we can just do that.
I actually took some NyQuil last night, so I'm kind of loopy at the moment.
Oh, wow. Well, hopefully this won't be a loopy fiasco. That's a joke. Never mind.
Yeah.
Well, David, I'll start things off here. You posted your top 175 albums of 2021 list just this morning. It's gotten a lot of eyeballs on it on Facebook. You want to talk a little bit about that and maybe go over some of the top albums, some of the other albums you had in there?
Thanks. Yeah. I did post my list, as I do at this time every year. It's not just the top 175, but it's also subcategories of contemporary releases and reissues, all kinds of reissues broken down into different categories. It's and this is probably the most extensive one I've done because there were so many amazing releases, both contemporary and reissue. Normally, I just do a top 125, a top 125 contemporary. And this year, there were so many good ones that I expanded it to 175. I mean, COVID is an awful thing, but no matter what phenomenon you're dealing with in life, there's always a potential silver lining. And one silver lining of COVID was that people were indoors. Musicians were not able to go out and gig. So it gave them more time to concentrate on writing and recording their own music. And because of that, we have tons of great releases that have come out in 2021. And yeah, it was a lot of fun doing this list. And I want to thank every artist who released an album last year for enriching our lives so much, especially mine. There were some amazing ones, starting with ANC4, which was my favorite, Strange Tide on Cool Cat and Beluga Records. That was my favorite album of the year. Just as good as power pop gets, and with, of course, that that Swedish thing, that ineffable thing that Sweden has, that just makes their stuff so special. And they're a great band, and they've really come into their own. There's tons of records I would want to mention on this list, but we don't have time, and I don't know if I have the inclination either. One I wanted to mention, because I don't know if anybody but me and Rena have actually heard this, is a band from Texas called the Tambourine People. They have an album called Tambourine Love, and it's all kinds of different pop styles. But it starts out with two of the best Sunshine pop songs I've heard in a long time. And then it morphs into a more sort of just not contemporary, but early 70s style pop sounds. It's a bit tongue in cheek at times, which is probably why it wasn't number one, actually. I couldn't take it 100% seriously for that reason, but the songs are just so good that I couldn't ignore it either. And I recommend that people check out the Tambourine People. They have a Facebook page, so definitely go over there. And their album is on Spotify as well, so if you want to check it out, definitely do. I can't recommend it more high. Well, I guess I recommended two a little bit higher.
Right.
um,
Right.
but
Well, you know, those like you said, it's sort of tongue in cheek, but those sorts of homages, as it were. Homages? Am I pronouncing that right? Yeah.
homages, yeah.
Yeah, those things. Um, they can make for some really effective records, of course, as you know, starting with the Ruddles, you know, back in 1978, a great record on its own. And then, you know, Todd Rundgren and Utopia did Deface the Music in 1980, which was their Beatles sort of rip, which was really cool. And then I see another one on your list here of where is it? Top 5 tribute disc single artists. Nick Frater presents The Rebuttals. Ron Dirk Stiggenberry, The Solo Years, Volume 1.
Right.
That one was pretty cool. Sort of a Ruddles tribute. So tributing a tribute, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it was supposed to be the Ruddles if they had broken up and had solo careers. It was, yeah, it's fun. A lot great idea. That's the kind of stuff we generally, like, for example, at IPO, we generally don't have bands who do covers. There are exceptions, of course, but when one of the exceptions is when somebody comes up with something cool like that. Like my buddy Andras Jones, he and I can't remember his partner. They did an act of covering only songs that McCartney and Elvis Costello wrote together, and I thought, all right, how can I turn that down?
Wow.
I mean, how often do you hear "Back on My Feet" as a cover, for example? You don't. So, but we did live that night, and that was really fun. So if Nick Frater wants to do
didn't Marsland do "Back on My Feet" at one point? Adam Marsland cover it?
Maybe.
Thought I never heard it, but I knew he did it.
All right. Well, that or whatever, or some of the other ones that they wrote together, I'm sure nobody did. It was a fun night, though. And if Nick Frater wants to assemble a band to do that at IPO Liverpool, he's more than welcome. So, I mean, obviously, I want to hear his own stuff, which did very well on my list. Also, I mean, his albums always do. They're just all tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick. I've seen Nick's name pop up on a lot of year-end lists. His stuff is always consistently great. And yeah, if he does decide to do a rebuttals show at IPO Liverpool, I'll have to let him know I'm available to play Barry Wham if he needs a Barry Wham behind the drum kit. Yeah, wow. Yeah, this list is pretty amazing for those who not only who like power pop, but who like sunshine pop, any type of pop rock, and of course a lot of oldies when you get into the reissues. And you know, I think a lot of people pigeonhole reviewers and folks like you and me by thinking, you know, all we listen to is you know, 60-year-old guys wearing Beatle boots and jangling guitars. But obviously that's not the case. I know you're a big fan of 70s soul like I am, and big fan of 50s rockabilly like I am. And a lot of these reissues that you touch on here, you know, are a lot more than just power pop stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I get so many, you know, emails and messages where artists have albums that they want me to hear, and they'll say, well, it's not exactly power pop. And it's like, okay, that's
Right.
fine. You know, as long as it's melodic and it strikes a chord with me, I'm, you know, more than happy to hear it or you know, and or review it. But yeah, we do get pigeonholed because, you know, well, I do, obviously, because I run a festival that when it started was virtually all power pop.
Right.
Since then, we've certainly expanded our parameters, and we have all kinds of melodic rock and roll in there. And most of what I review is power pop, although I'll review the occasional reissue that's oriented in a different direction. But I don't know. It's it's a stigma that you or me or so many other people are going to have a difficult time shaking. So
Right.
we just have to kind of roll with it.
Roll with it, to quote Steve Winwood. Anyway,
I knew that was
I got
coming.
mine in there.
I knew it. I knew it.
Well, thanks. It's always good to have a good straight man. I was hoping Mark would pop in and give us the score of the JV game, but I guess he's not going to do that. It was exciting. It was tied, I think, when he left us. Mark, are you out there? No,
Actually, I'm looking at the feed right now, and he left for a second. Now he's coming back.
Yeah, snack bar. He usually does that at halftime. Anyway, some cool stuff, David, that I have to talk about, and you are involved in this. This was just announced about an hour ago. Big Stir magazine, issue number 6. I think it's number 6. Yes, issue 6 is out and available as of today, and it's a special edition. The Is This Power Pop special.
But is it Power Pop?
And David's laughing, and I'm not sure why. Well, it's sort of a takeoff on the "but is it Power Pop" thing that our friend Stephen Schnee sort of started, and then everyone sort of took off and made it into sort of a good-natured joke. But like Robbie Riss says, when people are teasing you, at least they're still talking about you. It's when they stop talking about you that you have to worry. But anyway, sort of a takeoff on the "but is it Power Pop" title, but it's got a lot of cool stuff. I co-edited this along with S.W. Loudon, aka Steve Coulter from the Brothers Steve, and it has some really cool writers in here. David wrote some stuff for it, of course. You did. Paul Myers, Jeff Whalen, Carl Caffarelli, Nadja D from Hop On Power Pop, David Lang from Australia, Kate Sullivan, Rex Broom, and the aforementioned Steve Schnee. And then Steve Coulter has a few things in here. I have a few things in here as well. Just a really cool sort of state of the nation thing as far as Power Pop goes. And I'm trying to remember, David, what did you write about? You wrote about it just says Power Pop in the table of contents, but well, I think you wrote about sort of how you came to get involved in the Power Pop scene, right?
Maybe I actually have forgotten what I do write a lot of stuff, so I've just totally forgotten what this one is.
Right. Well, we don't want to tell people too much of what it is because then they won't buy it. But this is David's article, and of course we had to have since it is David Bash of the International Pop Overthrow, had to have a picture of Material Issue on there. So kind of a nice tribute to them. But the cool thing is the magazine. It's sort of like a Mojo sort of deal, and that it comes with a companion CD that you can only get if you purchase the magazine. And the magazine is called, the CD is called Power Pop for Now People. And it's a compilation of artists who are on the Big Stir label and who are also on the Spider Pop Records label out of Texas. Those two labels have been working together the past year or so. So you have tracks by folks like Danny Wilkerson, Lenny Flowers, The Penguins, Ice Cream Hands, Plastic Soul, Bill Lloyd, Sorrows, which was David's number 2 album of 2021. The Brothers Steve, Pop Dude, Sparkle Jets UK. There's also an exclusive track by Bruce Moody, who, if you guys don't know Bruce Moody, get his reissue. David talks about it in his list. I think it was on Wizard and Vinyl last year.
Compilation.
Yeah, great compilation on Wizard and Vinyl, right? The label of Japan. Yeah. You definitely, if you're a fan of Power Pop, get that. But yeah, a really cool CD that comes with Big Stir magazine, the Power Pop issue, and it's only $7, which is ridiculous for a magazine, glossy magazine, and a CD. So go out and order that. There's links all over social media today if you want to get yourself one. But really a lot of fun putting the CD together. I curated it, so 20 tracks of what I felt were the best pure pop sounds from Big Stir and Spider Pop over the past several years. And I know David's heard it.
I have.
Yeah. So
Bruce Moody's brother Hank was really good on Californication. No, never mind.
See, I never saw Californication.
Okay.
So I don't see that joke. Just
Hank's just a character played by David
oh
Duchovny on one of my favorite shows ever. So
okay.
getting back to the list, one
Yes.
of the reasons I wore this shirt, and this was my maybe my most difficult choice on the list, because you're in this case you're comparing unlike entities really, but what was going to be my number one box set? Was it going to be the Beach Boys Feel Flows, which musically is the best thing in my opinion? Probably, I guess, my favorite thing that I own. If I only had time to grab one thing from my collection, God forbid, because of a fire or whatever, it would be that. But was that
Wow.
going to be the number one box, or was it going to be the All Things Must Pass Uber box, which of course is the most lavishly presented box set ever?
Well, if you only had one thing to carry out of your house in case of a fire, you wouldn't want the All Things Must Pass Uber box. That thing's heavy as shit.
It's heavy and it's made of wood, so
right.
it would burn immediately.
It would burn up on your way out of the house.
Right, but I mean, it's got everything you could possibly want in there, except for George himself, and so I mean, how do you choose? Well, ultimately, I decided that when it's a tie, you go with the music, and it's not like the Feel Flows box is chopped liver. Far from it. It's got a nice book. It's presented, it's presented the way a lot of those sort of notebook style box sets are presented. It's well done. It's no Uber box, but nothing is, and you wonder if anything will be. I don't know how well that thing sold. I don't know if Universal or Apple or anybody else is going to do that again, but I hope so. I was very fortunate to be able to get a copy of that for a very reasonable price, because I had already decided I'm not paying the $1,000 to $1,200 list on it. I remember when we were at you and I were in Arlington at Forever Young Records, and that was the first place that I think either of us had ever seen the Uber box in person. Up until then, it was only available online, and there we see it at a store, and they had it for $1,200. And one of the clerks said, we've had 10 of these, and none of them are selling. Well, for that price,
right?
What do you expect, right? But I was able to find one at my local record emporium, Freak Beat Records, for a much better price than that, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, no, I'd love to have a copy of that, but I think I'm saving my money for the Ringo's Rotogravure Uber box that's coming out. Let's see, in 2016, 2017. Yeah. But no, so many good box sets this year. I can see why you had difficulty between not only those two, but of course the Let It Be box was pretty amazing. The Cat Stevens Teaser and the Firecat 50th anniversary box. I know you enjoyed that one a lot. The Elvis Costello Armed Forces Super Deluxe, that was incredible. I'm listening to right now and reviewing for Goldmine the new Beau Brummels box. Which is pretty much everything you would need to hear, or even probably could hear, by the Beau Brummels. So
Steve Stanley did another wonderful job with that one, and that was my highest ranked box of any of the smaller boxes. I mean, obviously the bigger ones were done by labels with a much bigger budget than Steve had to work with, so they were able to present a lot more. And I had to. I had to rank them higher because they did deliver more in terms of aesthetic and the like. But the Beau Brummels box, for what it was just tremendous. There were a few boxes that probably would have finished number one in other years. Obviously, the Uber box, that Caravan box. Most people listening may not be fans of them because they're a little bit more prog than would align with the taste of a lot of our listeners. But hell, it had 36 CDs in it. So
what? Yeah. 36 CDs?
Yeah, like all their albums plus all their almost all of their live performances.
What the? Oh, that's ridiculous.
But if you like that kind of thing, Well, it ended up being smaller than the Uber box. I mean, I actually have a place to store the Caravan box. Then there was the Nirvana, the '60s Nirvana Song Life, like their albums all on LP on vinyl for the first time in many, many years. I mean, any of them would have finished #1 in lots of other years, but it wasn't to be this year.
Yeah,
That's
well,
how good the box sets were.
it is hard to argue with the Beach Boys and George Harrison being #1 and #2, but when you come right down to it, it's rock and roll, David. As
There you go. Perfectly appropriate.
Was in a Beach Boys book that you and I both love. Oh, speaking of things that you and I both love, David and I are both big baseball fans, and so that's why he mentioned he's wearing the Beach Boys shirt in tribute to the #1 album or the #1 box set. I'm wearing my 2020 shirt in tribute to the #1 Power Pop album in my book Shake Some Action. But I also wanted to kiss up a little bit, so I wore my New York Yankees hat for David, even though I'm not a huge Yankees fan. But I also have a different hat here that I'm going to put on that David might recognize.
Oh, wow.
You might know this, the Seattle Pilots. It's got the Technicolor gingerbread on the peak of the
scrambled
cap.
eggs, as they said.
Scrambled eggs, Technicolor gingerbread. I put the cap on peak front. So, Seattle Pilots, a 1 year, one and done major league team. For those of you who don't know, 1969 American League later became the Milwaukee Brewers. They were the subject of a book that many people love, but David and I especially love, Ball 4 by Jim Bouton. And David and I can quote you lines from that book. No one ever wants us to, but we could if someone wanted us to. But
somebody wrote, I don't remember who it was, if it was a professional writer or just a reader, said Ball 4 is not just a baseball book, it's a people book. And that's really true. I mean, you don't have to be a big baseball fan to enjoy that book. For those who don't know, it was written by Jim Bouton, who was a pitcher on the Seattle Pilots the 1 year of their existence, and it was written in diary form, basically talking mostly about the goings on, the behind the scenes goings on of the team. And it was very, very funny. It revealed a lot of things which at the time were considered verboten to reveal. And so he took a lot of flack for it. But there's all kinds of little funny stuff, like players kissing each other as a joke on the bus, and things like beaver shooting, which is when the guys would go to the roof of a hotel, and something you could do in 1969 that you would easily get arrested for now, and just looking through hotel windows to see if they could spot a woman taking off her clothes. Back then that was harmless fun, not anymore. But there were, just little things like that people chuckled at. And, it also talked about the life of being a baseball player, especially on the road, that it wasn't as easy as people thought. Bouton was sent down to the minor leagues and then brought up. So there was a little, there was that kind of, that sort of thing, which brings a lot of stress to a ball player and their families. So it was really an all-encompassing book, and it's a lot of fun. I would recommend it to virtually anybody listening to this. I think, like I said, even if you're not a baseball fan, you would get a lot out of it.
Right. No, an excellent book. It's funny, speaking of baseball, I was cleaning out my garage over the weekend and found a ton of stuff that I knew I had but didn't know where it was. And one of the things I found was my collection of old Baseball Digest magazines. And this was one that I pulled out because this is my favorite major league player ever, Richie Allen, or Dick Allen, as he was later known. This is the year he won the most valuable player with the Chicago White Sox. So I had to pull that out. Also found my autographed Dick Allen photo, which I had in storage. I'm not sure why, but music related, some cool stuff that I found. I found my entire collection of Yellow Pills magazines, the original Yellow Pills magazines.
Jordan, are you listening?
Yeah. And I haven't looked through them yet. Same thing with all the original Pop-Sided magazines. And a lot
Baz, are you listening?
Right. And then also I found the a lot of the old oddities magazines that you and I think
Anthony
both wrote
Henderson, are
for.
you listening?
Anthony's not listening, no. But has anyone heard from Anthony lately? I haven't heard from that guy at all. Like,
Well,
in a while.
he had told me he was going to come to IPO Arlington, and then unfortunately he was under the weather. But
Oh
yeah,
gosh, it would have been great to see him come out, but unfortunately he wasn't there.
right.
But anyway, yeah, I found a lot of great stuff in the in my garage. There's a lot of cool old baseball cards, music books. This was one book that I'm sure a lot of people out there had at one point, and you may have had it. This book actually started my
I had it and I went with it.
yeah, and if you had it, anyone could have. Another thing that we quote from The Honeymooners, Jackie Gleason, Art Carney. This book actually started my fascination with sort of new wave, power pop, punk rock. When I was in high school, late 70s, I was Styx, Kansas, Foreigner, Journey type of guy. That's what everybody listened to. I had my copy of Frampton Comes Alive because you had to if you were a teenager in the late 70s. And that stuff I still like to listen to a lot of it. I'm not one of those people who thinks AOR is not cool because it's AOR. I mean, great song's a great song, doesn't matter who
Right, absolutely.
did it or does it or whatever. But this book got me really interested in that sort of thing. It's called The New Music. David, have you ever seen this book?
I've seen it, but I've never owned it.
Yeah, I read this thing over and over, and it's just got really, it was written by a couple of guys from Australia, Glenn A. Baker and Stuart Cope.
Yeah,
and there's
Glenn A. Baker's great.
Yeah, and there's a chapter in here, I think, about power pop. Yeah, the records, the Rubenews, Eric Carmen, Nick Lowe, and more. And back then it was called the new music trend, power pop, which, later became the type of music no one wants to admit that they play. But back then it was a new music trend. But yeah, there's stuff in here about, let's see, the Jags, Ian Gom, 2020, which is really cool. The Romantics, Paul Collins Beat, Eric Carmen. You can see there the Rubenews, and let's see. Yeah, Rubenews there.
Wow, I'm going to have to find this.
The Romantics with the red leather pants. Yes, Madness is in here. Someone mentioned that as well. There's the big old Eric Carmen photo.
Yeah, with a huge hair. Yeah.
With huge things. Yes. Anyway, just a lot of fun to kind of go down memory lane and find all that old stuff. And it's fun listening to old music, but it's fun finding new stuff too. And that's why I think so many people are going to be really into your list. Because I know so many people.
I wanted to expand upon something you mentioned earlier, because I think it's important. I was never really part of any scene back then. I was much more of an introvert. So for that reason, I guess I never got caught up in the trappings of being part of a scene, meaning that if you're part of a scene, you're supposed to like certain things and you're supposed to hate certain things. And while I'm very glad that the new wave and punk was born out of people's perceived need for something new, I still don't really understand why it had to be an either or situation. I mean, I loved power pop, I loved new wave, and I liked some punk pop as long as it was melodic. I was certainly a big Ramones fan. But why that had to be at the exclusion of bands like Boston and Supertramp and Fleetwood Mac and Frampton and all of the, AOR, as you mentioned, all of the stuff that was on the radio. I mean, couldn't people just, and I'm going to open a door for you, couldn't people just learn to think for themselves? No. I mean, that's something that I don't like about any movement that sort of shuns or eschews certain genres because it's not the same or because it represents something that they feel is anathema. I don't dig that. I'm not down with it. I'll never do it. I mean, just
right.
If you like music, I mean, there's no reason to dislike Boston because they were on a major label and because they spent a lot of money on their record and because they represent an ethos that maybe, some hardcore down in the dirt musicians, disdained. The records are good. They really are.
Right.
And you know
Right.
what?
Yeah.
So is Elvis Costello. So are the Sex Pistols. So are a lot of other people who again are in a completely different world than the arena corporate rock world. There's room for both, people. There really are.
Well, yeah, music, like so much stuff, particularly now with social media.
Mods versus rockers, exactly.
Yeah, it's like mods versus rockers, as someone said. It's
Disco
also,
disco sucks. Disco's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of like an us versus them kind of thing, and it doesn't have to be.
Us and them, to quote Pink. Never mind.
There you go. And whoever the Facebook user is who said "and Bob Seger," I can't see your name, but I hate you, whoever you are. I'm kidding. No,
How
it's
can
funny.
you like Bob Seger and Power Pop? It's impossible.
It's funny. I don't dislike Bob Seger. First of all, I'm sure he's a very nice guy.
But really, I love Bob Seger.
And Bob. I call him Bob like I know him personally. BS has done a lot of fine music, and I think it was just gotten to the point where it was just making a joke. It's sort of like John Lennon said, I was just making a joke, and now there's all this. It was just a joke. I have nothing against Bob Seger. There's just some songs that you've heard so many times on the radio and everywhere that you never want to hear them again. And Bob Seger has about 7 or 8 of those. For me, the late 70s era Seger, it's like, I don't need to hear Night Moves or old time rock and roll, especially now that I DJ. Play old time rock and roll. All right. Okay. People love it. So people want to hear it. I'll play it. But I have nothing personally against Mr. Seger. JK, as the kids say. And as somebody else just said too.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all locked into that. I made a statement that Kiss wasn't power pop, and I was very, very emphatic about that. And now everybody thinks I don't like Kiss. It's like, yeah, I do like Kiss, actually. Well, not their whole career, but certainly through the late 70s. I think they were really good for what they were, and I even own some of their records. They're just not power pop, and that's okay.
Of course they're not.
I have no problem with them not being power pop.
Of course they're not power pop, and nothing any of them has ever done has ever been power pop. They might like power pop. That's fine. And I hear so many people say, and you've heard this, David, that, well, Gene Simmons says they were influenced by the Raspberries. Gene Simmons is a big Raspberry fan. Yeah, right. Well, I drive a car. Does that make me a Formula One driver? No. Come on, man. I mean, just because you're influenced by somebody doesn't mean that you've suddenly become a power pop artist. Don't try to jam people into those sorts of boxes. Kiss is a hard rock band. They always have been. They always will be. And if people love them, that's great. What I think, though, when you start doing more IPOs again, you need to do some of those Paul Stanley like stage announcements, like "How you doing, Texas?" The big high pitched voice and that kind of thing. That would be awesome. All right, IPO, the merch table.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're kidding. I wish I could. Well, you know what? I wish I could pull that off, but even if I could, I wouldn't. My style is more like Ed Sullivan's, so and that's fine with me. I mean, I try to low key it, but well, there was something actually that Kiss, the whole Kiss thing kind of dovetails nicely with talking about something else on my list that I think people probably never gave a shot because of who it is. Paul Stanley's Soul Station was my #1 covers album of the year, and it would have actually had a shot for #1 album of the year if I had combined all these different categories. People don't like Paul Stanley's voice. People don't like Kiss. I totally get that. But on this album, he's completely different. It's like he's done a 180. And this was the music that he was born to do, in my opinion. He and Gene probably figured they weren't going to become millionaires if they did this sort of thing instead of what they did. But Paul Stanley has a really, really awesome soul voice. He does. He did great versions of songs like Could It Be I'm Falling in Love and You Are Everything, and a bunch of other covers from there. And there's also 5 songs that he wrote on the album in that exact style. And while they aren't as good as the hits he covered, they were really pretty darn good and could have certainly fit on the radio back then. He really does a great job on these songs, in my opinion. I mean, others may disagree, but I think I want to be emphatic about this because I think a lot of people just discounted it when they saw who it was. They said, I'm not buying this. I'm not even listening to it. What's the point? It's very different. You would never know that this guy was in Kiss when you listen to this. They really, really are good. Oh, somebody said they play that blend in fairly nicely with the covers. Absolutely, they do. If you didn't know any of those songs, you'd figure they were all from the same writer. So I just want to emphasize that people should give it a shot. Just go on Spotify at least, listen to a few of the songs. If you don't like them, fine, but it's not the Paul Stanley that you've known and grown to hate.
Right. It's not the hairy-chested rocker Paul Stanley guy.
Not at all.
I've heard a couple of songs. I heard his version of Ooh Child, which I thought was very, very good. I mean, I haven't checked out the whole album, but maybe I need to do that.
I really think you'd like it. If you like Ooh Child by him, then you should like the rest of it. Yeah. I was blown away. I didn't expect that. I mean, I think someone posted the video of Ooh Child and I kind of checked it out almost because I expected to get a laugh. I figured this guy can't sing that kind of stuff. And I was blown away by everything, by his vocals, by Soul Station's playing and presentation. And then when the album came out, I immediately got it. And it was like, wow, this is all good. So yeah, by all means, if you don't like it, fine, but check it out.
If you don't like it,
another one I want to talk about was Mickey Dolan sings Nesmith. First of all, Mickey sings the shit out of those songs. He really does. His tribute to his partner, his late partner, R.I.P., was just so heartfelt and so well done. And it wasn't like all the hits that Nesmith was involved with. A lot of very deep cuts as well. I was impressed with the fact that he brought some of those things out from the mothballs and did them so well. So if you haven't picked that one up, definitely check it out. Yeah, just so much amazing stuff in 2021. I don't think we're gonna see a year. Well, I mean, you may not agree with me on that, but if you do, I don't think we're gonna see a year like 2021 music wise for a long time. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope 2022 turns out to be just as good, and I'm sure it will be good as every year is.
Right. No, overall, I think maybe maybe there have been years that have had some higher highs, but in terms of overall consistency of albums and a lot of very, very good albums, 2021 was way up there. Definitely.
And I want to give a shout out to some of the labels that released so much good stuff this year, like Big Stir. There were a lot of Big Stir entries on my list, including several in my top 50. Spider Pop, of course. The Cool Cat came out released a lot of stuff, including my number one, ANC4, which is also on Beluga Records out of Sweden. That's the vinyl version. So yeah, I mean, obviously check that out. Future Man always releases really good stuff. So yeah,
Jem also releases
Jem,
a lot
yes,
of good
absolutely.
Stuff too.
Marty Scott and Jem.
Yeah, Marty was going to be here to watch this, David, but he's looking for a parking spot. He can't seem to find one.
Yeah, it's parking spots for Material Issues are really tough to get.
Yeah, David has just the president CEO Material Issues parking spot. Mark's is open because he's at the basketball game, so I took his. Otherwise, you want a parking spot, you're screwed. One thing I did want to mention, though, David, kind of following up on your Soul Station thing, we talked about Ooh Child, originally done by the Five Stair Steps. That was a song that was released in 1970, and want to announce
My favorite
here.
year for AM radio. By
Yes, yeah, so many great songs. But I wanted to announce here. You're welcome. Thanks for the gem shout out.
Oh, Marty, hi, how are you?
Marty, you found a parking spot. Cool. Hopefully you're not in the red because you'll get towed. Anyway, 1970, yeah, so much great stuff, so much good, AM radio, great pop, great rock, great soul, a lot of proto punk like the Stooges and whatnot. So a couple of years ago, I thought it would be good to do another or produce another tribute record. I've produced several in the past. A Shoes tribute in 2001, a tribute to bubblegum music came out on Not Lame in 2002. Then co-produced Elvis Costello tribute in 2015 for Spider Pop. Well, coming up this year, first half of the year, we're going to have, pleased to announce, another tribute to the year 1970. And this will be released on Spider Pop Records. It's called We All Shine On, a tribute to the music of 1970. We've got some fabulous artists on there. I'll just tell you some of them. We mentioned Gem Records. We do have a Gem Records artist on there. Jonathan Pushkar is on there. But we also have a lot of other folks, Danny Wilkerson, Lanny Flowers, Starbelly, Bobby Sutliff from the Windbreakers, the Legal Matters, the Brothers Steve, the Armoires, Irene Pena, Darian Sahanaja from Wondermints, a rare solo track, one that he did just for this compilation. Sparklejets UK, the Armoires, Bill Lloyd, Alan Pecci and Delbert Rains, just all kinds of cool stuff. Two really, really cool people I was pleased to get on here. One is Mitch Easter. He does a version of the old soul standard, Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time?
And one of my favorite songs of all time, by the way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then Richard Barone, formerly of the Bongos and now a cool solo artist. Also, I think
on
a
Gem
Records
Records
artist. Yeah. He did a version of kind of a relatively rare Donovan cut called Ricky Tikki Tavi, not one of Donovan's well-known songs, but it's really cool and did a great job. So we've got an album and an EP coming out later this year. The EP will be on Big Stir. The full length will be on Spider Pop. So look out for that. We'll be promoting it more on social media in the days and weeks to come. But, very excited for people to hear songs like Mama Told Me Not to Come, Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time, Walk a Mile in My Shoes, Come and Get It, Share the Land originally by the Guess Who, Cracklin' Rosie, What is Life, all kinds of really cool stuff. So very, very excited about that.
Yeah, I want to say that although this one is named in tribute to one of the songs on the compilation, your tribute discs have had some of the best names, best titles, I should say. I mean, you've had great artists; they've been wonderful. But Right to Choose, CHEWS, and Shoe Fetish they're just great names. They really are.
Neither of those were my idea, which is probably why they were good ideas. I don't remember who came up with Shoe Fetish. That might have been
It Ain't Me, Babe, to quote Bob Dylan.
Right. It might have been Peter Kuehl, photographer, record store owner, and all-around great guy out of Chicago. He might have come up with Shoe Fetish. He did the cover photo for that one. Right to Choose, I remember that was Will Harris, I believe. Another journalist friend of ours came up with that one. But it's funny because many people might not notice, we call this one We All Shine On, a tribute to the music of 1970, but there's not a version of Instant Karma on this tribute.
Oh, it's not on. Okay.
No, it's not on there. So we're just playing with people a little bit. But, there's going to be 7 songs on the EP, 22 songs on the full length, so almost 30 tracks, and everybody, like I said, from someone who just passed away today or recently that you told me, Ardene Taylor, rest in peace. He did the original version of Indiana Wants Me that Bobby Sutliff does here. And then there's even a version of Loose, the Stooges song by the Used Electrics, which is Victor Irwin, my friend Victor Rock God from Arlington, Texas. We had a blast recording that there. I was on drums for that one. That was really, really cool. So, speaking of resting in peace, I know we found out not long before we went live here that Ronnie Spector had passed away, which is very, very sad. Certainly a unique voice in the history of rock and roll, and someone who influenced a lot of people with her voice and with her songs. So, our condolences, of course, go out to her.
R.I.P. Ronnie.
Yeah.
I mean, Janice Ian, Susanna Hoffs. Those are two voices that come to mind that remind me a lot of Ronnie Spector's. She was wonderful, and of course, Phil, his transgressions aside, was arguably the greatest producer of rock and roll of all time, and those Ronettes records, among other things that he produced, are absolutely transcendent. I think of something like "Walking in the Rain," with the thunder and the rain sounds in the back. It all sounded so big, and it was in mono, not stereo, which generally sounds bigger. But that wall of sound, it especially was that appellation was apropos for sure on a record like "Walking in the Rain," and of course Ronnie's vocal. I mean, just timeless.
Yeah,
so,
and just if she would have only influenced somebody like Brian Wilson, who's well known for his favorite song being "Be My Baby."
Boy, is he well known for that.
Yeah, she'd be loved and respected if just that one song, but there was so much more that she did. So, of course, our condolences to her family and friends. And as we said, rest in peace. But
I want to talk a little bit about Ardene Taylor, because there's some people who may not know. I mean, he's in the U.S., of course, he's known for almost exclusively for Indiana Wants Me, because he never had any other big hits in this country. Mm-hmm. However, he did have some big hits in the UK that people here may not know. One is a song that was on the album that the Indiana Wants Me album, called "Gotta See Jane." That was actually a huge record in the UK and in Canada. Very good song, and has especially the chorus has a very Motown-y vibe, and why not? Ardene Taylor was a staff writer for Motown. I think he was probably one of the few, if not the only, white songwriter that Motown employed. He co-wrote "I'm Living in Shame," the Supremes hit, among other things. But one of the songs that he wrote and recorded was a song called "There's a Ghost in My House."
Right, I was just going to mention that one. Great one.
That was it came out in the late 60s to absolutely no response whatsoever. But then in the early 70s, when Northern Soul became a thing in the UK, when DJs started revisiting some of the more obscure tracks that Motown and other soul labels had released but nobody heard, they started finding a lot of these records, which were extremely hard to find. And one of them was "There's a Ghost in My House." And I can't remember which DJ in the Northern Soul club scene started playing it, but it gained tons of traction, not just in the clubs, but on the radio. And it became a top 5 hit in the UK. It's just an awesome Northern Soul, just as they call it, a dance floor filler and shaker and mover kind of song. So he did a lot of stuff that people aren't aware of. He was Canadian, which is probably one of the reasons "Gotta See Jane" was big over there. But Ardene Taylor was much more than Indiana Wants Me, and again, R.I.P. to it.
Yeah, there's a great CD best of I picked up last year of his, and I was unaware of most of his recorded output, with the exception of "There's a Ghost in My House" and "Indiana Wants Me." And I was really impressed with the overall quality of his music. There's so many really, really great songs.
Yeah, no, he was an excellent songwriter. And again, Berry Gordy, I mean, he had as good an ear as anybody. So if he hired him to write, then, you knew he was going to be good.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one who at one point in time in their life has slammed on their brakes when they've heard the sirens and at the beginning and end of Indiana Wants Me, not realizing that was the song that was playing and you think the police are following you.
You know which one really got me? I'd heard Indiana Wants Me before I learned how to drive. So if it came on the radio, I knew what to expect. But one song I hadn't heard, which is if you do a 1971 a follow-up tribute, you might want to have somebody do a cover of this, DOA by Blood Rock.
Oh God, yeah.
The first time I heard that in my car, when those sirens came on, I freaked out. It's like, what the hell? Where? I thought there was a cop or an ambulance behind me or in front of me, and I couldn't see it. And then it occurred, oh, that's part of the song.
Yeah, that whole song is bizarre. Anyway,
almost as freaked out as when I first heard The Traitor by the Beach Boys, and you hear Justin Wilson say hi, like at the beginning. I'm looking behind me, like, who's in my room?
Oh, is that a little kid's voice that says hi?
Yeah, it's Carl Wilson's son, Justin.
Oh, are you sure it wasn't Ken Sharp or Jeremy? They kind of have that same voice you just did.
I'm pretty sure.
It wasn't. Okay.
Pretty sure it was Justin.
Well, you never know. I just thought I'd ask.
But yeah, first time I heard that was when I bought the Holland album, and it's the first song on the side. So you put the needle down, you're getting ready to hear something, and then it's like, hi, and I'm like, what? Oh, as I freaked out.
Wow. Yeah, another song with since we're talking about scary siren songs, the Clash's cover of the Equals' Police on My Back has sirens kind of weaving in and out of the whole thing. And a couple of times late at night driving home, I'm like, whoa, what the hell? Oh, yeah, it's a song. I keep forgetting it's in there, but that's another group that's really underrated, mostly known for two things. And I'm talking about the Equals, mostly known for the hit Baby Come Back here in the States, and as the group that spawned Eddie Grant. But so much good stuff in their catalog as well. Well worth investigating. Great late 60s, early 70s pop rock.
Yeah, I'm actually Facebook friends with Derv Gordon from the Equals. Very nice man. Yeah, you should friend him. He's a good guy. But yeah, there are so many really cool Equals comps, and a lot of them are 2 or 3 CD sets, and yeah, they had so much good stuff. I wish somebody would reissue their albums as proper albums, CD or vinyl, maybe one day. I mean, it seems like people are there's so as many things that have come out. There's still so many more that could be done. Each year, everyone says, like, what box sets could they possibly do next year? And then you get a whole bunch of them. I mean, I still want to see a Hollies mono vinyl box. I would love to see that. I'm sure a lot of people would.
Yeah, and there's even some power pop stuff that was never really on vinyl, because it was released in the CD age. I've heard rumors that a lot of the early Shazam albums are going to be coming out on vinyl. So that'll be really cool, because that's some great, energetic, muscular power pop music right there for sure.
Muscular, like Mike Fernandez's drumming.
Yes, it's muscular but not chiseled, which is different.
No, not chiseled.
Different thing. More inside jokes.
I'll never forget when there was a power pop band, Maximum Power Pop, from the late 90s from Japan, called Samantha's Favorite.
Right.
I remember when they came to the States to play a show, and I saw their drummer, and he looked exactly like a Japanese Mike Fernandez. And I remember telling Mike that. I said, yeah, even his head is shaped like yours. And then they met each other, and I forgot who took a photo of them. I may have it somewhere. But man, they're both drummers, and they both look exactly alike. Except really one's funny. Hispanic and one's Japanese. So it's really interesting.
Mike Fernandez is one of my favorite people in the world. So shout out to Mike, even though I'm sure he's not watching. So many cool people I know named
Mike. Where the hell are you? That's my bad Mike Fernandez.
That was really bad. It scared me a little bit. The Mike Fernandez impression frightens me sometimes. But now so many cool people I know named Mike or Michael. I mean, there's Michael Mazzarella from the Rooks, and of course my good buddy Mike Simmons and Mike Fernandez, and my son's name is Michael. Yeah.
And so, as is my dad's name.
There you go. Your guest last week. Now, see, how am I going to follow up your dad? He was pretty awesome, and what a cool thing to have him on your show.
He is an awesome man, and has done so many things in his life, and even at age 90, he's still very charming. So kudos.
Yeah, awesome.
Unfortunately, Sean skips generations, but
well, I wasn't going to say anything, but you did. I don't have
to.
Now you've got some pretty cool guests coming up, right? As opposed to me, who's an uncool guest, you have some cool guests coming up.
We have next week. Thank you for that. Next week, on January 19th, we have Dave Faulkner from the Hoodoo Gurus.
Wow,
a tremendous guest. Somebody who I've been a fan of for a long time, as I know of a lot of our listeners. So and our first guest, he'll be our first guest from Australia, and our first guest to actually be doing his show on Thursday, because in Australia it will be Thursday morning rather than Wednesday afternoon here. Then on the 26th, Dwight Twilly. He had been scheduled for December. That didn't work out, but now we're going to have him on the 26th, and we're, of course, a power pop icon for sure, and we're going to be glad to have him. Speaking of icons, our first guest who ever had a #1 record on Billboard, Mr. Gilbert O'Sullivan, will be our guest on February 2nd. And one thing people need to know is that he's still recording some really good records. And, obviously radio isn't hip to that sort of thing right now, but there are songs on his new albums that could have been hits in the 70s. No doubt about it. He still knows how to write a hook. And he's going to be touring in the UK and the States in a couple of months. Yeah. I hope to see him in March when he comes to LA. Yeah, and then February 9th, you want to talk about icons in the mod revival scene. There's very few that are up there with Paul Beauvoir of the Jet Set.
Jet Set, yeah.
And he will be our guest on February 9th. And then we're going to go a little bit off the grid, not off the grid, but outside of our wheelhouse, I should say, on February 16th with a guest named Alan Jacobson. He's a writer of sort of thriller FBI kind of books, and he's a good friend of my cousin Stu, and he connected us, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to have to read some of his stuff because that's not my bailiwick, but I will definitely get familiar, and we'll have a grand old time. And fortunately, none of those people decided that our numbers weren't good enough. So that's an inside joke.
Well, if your numbers were a certain level, they'll probably plummet after this episode here. But but no, Mark told me. I think Mark's still at the game. He's in line now buying popcorn. But Mark told me that I've been on twice now, so I get the coveted Paisley Jacket, which is very exciting because as a drummer for the Armoires, we wear Paisley, and so that will fit right in. Oh, wait a minute, Mark actually dropped this off. It's wow, Mark, right here.
That's great. I'm so jealous.
Well, apparently he wasn't in line getting popcorn. He was delivering me this jacket. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. The David Bash, the King of Paisley, along with Rex Broom. Or is it the Prince of Paisley? Of course, that sounds like Prince and Paisley Park.
That's alliteration.
Purple Rain.
I'm all for that.
I don't know.
That is a great jacket, but I'm not an armoire, so I don't get one.
Now, we use those jackets in a video shoot for one of our songs from our last record, Incognito. I don't remember what song it was now for some reason. But it was a lot of fun shooting it. Karen Bassett was in it with us, and it was a lot of fun.
It was a fun video for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's, those guys are always fun people, and like you mentioned, so many cool record labels and so many good people in this sort of pop music world
I've
that
seen
we.
all good people to quote yet. Never mind.
Yes. Um, in this pop music world that we inhabit, there's so many cool people like Rex and Christina and Ray from Cool Cat and Keith from Future Man and all the Spider Pop folks, and all the people who, are writing or have written for this Big Stir magazine, some really great people I'm proud to call friends. Steve Coulter, and of course you, Steve Schnee, Carl Caffarelli, and all the DJs like Mike Lidskin, Adam Waltemeyer, people who play this music. And, it's everyone has their own little sort of niche. And it's a really cool thing.
It really is, and I want to thank everybody who continues to enrich our lives, both artists and labels, and of course journalists.
Of course, journalists.
And yeah, keep it coming, please. We need it. I see Mark. Mark is, to paraphrase Mike Love in Heroes and Villains, he's announcing his ass off right now.
Oh wow! Okay.
I should actually mention the real quote. Mike Love talked about how he meditated his ass off, which I found so hilarious because meditation is such a non-action. So,
right.
How do you non-act your ass off? But
well,
that's Mike Love for you.
If anything can be done with an ass involved, it's probably Mike Love, because he's one of the biggest asses I've. So I've been told anyway. I've never had the pleasure.
Yeah, I have not met him either. So
yeah, I've not. He might be a great guy. You can probably ask any of his 17 ex-wives, and they'll tell you he's a great guy.
Oh man, I don't think so. Well, we've got. I asked Mr. Hershberger to log us off at 5 after the hour, so we have about 3.5 minutes. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, no. Just I'd love people to pick up the Big Stir magazine, as I mentioned, and you can, again, all over social media, you can find it there. I'd like to encourage people, once this lockdown is not lockdown, but once COVID is sort of past us, this surge is sort of past us, to head out to an international pop overthrow show when it comes to a town near you, because you will not be disappointed, not only for the music, but for the camaraderie. Great fun and great people, and can't wait to get back to doing that. Last thing I want to mention, if anyone, still needs a copy of my latest book, why not? I'll bring it up. The Beatles 100. Very, very proud of that. And it's available on Amazon or on the Rare Bird website, the publisher, or I have copies here if you want to contact me directly.
David Bash says, buy it.
Well, there you go. It's got It's got the D-Bash seal of approval, which is all.
It really is. You wrote a wonderful book. Like I always say, you have this fluid style of writing that just makes it so easy to read, and that makes for an entertaining book. So,
thank you.
Andy Hartley said, "Great read." Yes.
Oh, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. Hopefully, your sister Mariette. Wait, is that right? Anyway.
Does he even know who Mariette Hartley is?
No, but he'll look her up on the internet, and he'll find.
Andy, if you don't know who she is, look her up. She was a known actress in the States. Anyway, again, I want to reiterate my thanks to everyone who put out a great record, either both the artists and the labels. Thank you so much for the music. I can't overestimate how much it means to me and to so many other fans. So many other fans of power pop and every other genre that relates to rock and roll in some way. And not just rock and roll, but soul, rockabilly, all the reissues that encompass so many genres. Thank you all so much for what you've done. It means the world and more to everyone. We do have IPO shows coming up in Chicago, Liverpool, and Vancouver at this point. I will be working on other cities. With COVID and the aftermath, there have been some changes that are making some of the cities a little bit more challenging than they used to be. but hopefully we'll overcome all that, and I'll be able to schedule shows in the cities that we normally do it. And yeah, well, thanks. See you guys. Thank you, Kurt. I certainly look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for coming to Arlington also. And you were talking about camaraderie in Arlington, Texas, with Spider Pop Records as our host. It really felt like family. I've never felt as great as all IPOs feel. I've never felt so close to everybody as I do there. So if you're listening, Alan, Victor, anybody associated with Spider Pop, thank you.
Yeah, that was a great time. I was, so happy to be able to be there to see the other bands and to play with the Used Electrics and to meet people like Kurt Vance, and then see people like Lanny Flowers, of course, Danny Wilkerson. I got a chance to talk with Jim Ritchie from the Posers a little bit, and everyone else who was there. Was just really, really cool to hang out. And, things starting to get back to normal a little bit. And it felt like things were starting to get back to normal. So hopefully once this surge passes, we can get back to that point again. And, like I always say, music makes everything better. And certainly the case.
It does. It does indeed. And we're kind of waiting for Mark to log us off. He's the tech guy. And
Mark's actually at the free throw line right now. He's they one of the girls got hurt. They needed a sub. Mark came down from the stands. So far, he's sunk a couple of 3-pointers and he got fouled. He's at the free throw line. Go get him, Mark.
I could make a comment here that's in my head, but I'm going to keep it there.
Yeah, keep it to yourself.
I'll be like Dave Walker of Kimberly Clark. I'm going to
keep that to yourself. Yeah.
Right.
Mark is just having so much fun listening to this. He's probably not even announcing the game. He's just listening to us. He just wants us to keep going.
I guess. Yeah, he's totally lost. He's forgotten. You know what? Why don't we'll just both leave the studio and we'll just say goodbye here. You have a leave studio button, don't you?
I have a button that says replace Mark Hershberger. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, actually it is.
I have one that says mute Mark Hershberger, stop Mark Hershberger's camera. Oh yeah, there it is. Leave studio. Yeah, I see it.
So we'll just both agree to do that, and I don't know if there's going to be dead air at that point or what, but
some people might find that more entertaining than the previous hour. Who knows?
But anyway, thank you all very much for listening. We'll see you next week with Dave Faulkner and John. You're welcome back as a guest host anytime. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Oh, of course. I had a great time. Thanks for having me. And thank you, Mark. And go whatever team you're rooting for, Mark.
All right. Take care, John.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.